The floorboard cracked open under the guard's boot, and before he could lift his flashlight, a German prisoner threw himself across the hole with both arms spread, screaming for the others to run. But the plank snapped beneath his weight. A metal box slid into the open, and when the lid burst against the barracks step, American dog tags, hidden letters, and a blood-stained camp roster spilled across the dirt while every prisoner backed away from the building. The morning inspection began with a missing spoon, not a major alarm, and that made the discovery more dangerous. 2 American guards entered Barracks 12 expecting to search bunks, blankets, and lockers, while the German prisoners stood outside in the yard under routine count. The first guard noticed that one bunk near the stove had no dust beneath it. The blankets were dirty, the boots were muddy, and the room smelled of coal smoke. Yet the floor around that bunk had been swept so carefully that it looked newer than the rest of the barracks. A German prisoner named Kruger stepped out of line when he saw the guard bend near the bunk. He said the stovepipe was loose and the floor near it was unsafe. His voice came too fast, and 3 other prisoners turned toward him before the guard even answered. The guard tapped the floor with his rifle butt. The sound changed under one plank. It did not echo like earth. It answered with a dull metal strike. The second guard lifted his flashlight, and Kruger suddenly rushed into the doorway, knocking over a wash bucket as he tried to block the aisle. The guards grabbed him, but Kruger twisted free and threw himself across the floorboards. His elbow hit the weak plank, the wood split, and a hidden corner dropped into the darkness below. Something metal scraped beneath the boards and slid forward. A small box slammed against the step under the bunk and burst open. Dog tags scattered first, then folded letters, torn prisoner cards, a stained cloth bundle, and a camp roster with names circled in pencil. The room stopped moving as if the air had been cut. The guard picked up one dog tag and read an American name. He looked at the prisoners outside, then at the box, then ordered every man away from the barracks wall. Several German POWs stepped back instantly, but Kruger stared at the tags like a man watching his own sentence fall into daylight. The camp sergeant arrived running with 2 MPs behind him. He ordered the barracks sealed, the prisoners divided by bunk row, and the metal box carried into the yard without removing a single item from it. The moment it appeared outside, the prisoners saw enough to understand that the hiding place had failed. One thin prisoner near the fence pointed at the stained roster and said one of the circled names belonged to a man listed as transferred 3 days earlier. The sergeant ordered him pulled forward for protection, not punishment, and the prisoner identified 2 more names as men who had vanished after speaking to American clerks. Kruger shouted that the box was not his, but the broken plank was under his bunk, and his blanket roll contained a chisel wrapped in cloth. The guards placed the chisel beside the box, and the sharp edge still carried fresh splinters from the floorboard. The initial conflict became immediate and visible. Barracks 12 was no longer a sleeping room. It was a hiding place for American dog tags, prisoner letters, altered camp records, and something under the floor that German prisoners had been willing to fight over before the Americans even knew what they had found. Subscribe for more forgotten German POW stories like this one. The escalation began when the guards pulled up the remaining floorboards around the hole. Beneath the barracks was not a single hiding space, but a shallow crawl tunnel lined with ration crates, broken wood, and strips of uniform cloth used to keep papers dry. An MP crawled inside with a flashlight and pushed out 2 more metal tins. The first held German prisoner numbers sewn into cloth. The second held American letters, still sealed, tied together with string. Several envelopes had U.S. military addresses and names matching the dog tags from the first box. The camp sergeant ordered an evidence table built in the open yard. Dog tags went in one row, letters in another, German roster pages in a third. The stained cloth bundle stayed unopened until a medic arrived, because one corner had dried dark around a folded identity card. A German barracks leader tried to walk toward the table, claiming he needed to translate the names. The sergeant stopped him and ordered his pockets searched. Inside his coat lining, MPs found a small key tied to black thread and a scrap of paper listing bunk numbers from Barracks 12. The key opened a padlock inside the tunnel. Behind it was a narrow wooden drawer built between two support beams. The drawer contained punishment notes, transfer requests, and a second roster written in a different hand. This roster had two columns: men who talked and men who disappeared. The thin prisoner from the fence identified the handwriting as belonging to a former German clerk named Adler, who had worked in the camp office before being moved to laundry duty. When guards searched the laundry, Adler was found hiding behind damp blankets with ink on his fingers. Adler tried to run through the washroom door, but a guard caught him by the collar and dragged him back into the yard. He denied writing the roster until the sergeant placed the ink bottle from his laundry shelf beside the tunnel papers. The ink color matched the latest entries. The escalation widened when the first sealed American letter was opened in front of witnesses. It was addressed to a soldier whose dog tag lay on the same table. Inside was a family photograph and a note from home, never delivered, never returned, and hidden beneath a German POW barracks. A medic opened the stained cloth bundle. It held a torn sleeve from an American uniform and a German medical slip marked recovered effects. The slip claimed the items were found after burial, but there was no burial number, no date, and no official signature. The sergeant sent a patrol to the camp records office. They found one drawer forced shut with a nail. Inside were missing transfer cards for prisoners who had been moved through Barracks 12 before registration. Some names were German, some were American, none were complete. Kruger finally broke enough to speak. He said the hidden tunnel had been used by prisoners loyal to old command discipline to control men who might testify about Americans held nearby before the camp changed hands. The dog tags were not trophies alone. They were proof of prisoners passing through the camp alive. By evening, the escalation had spread beyond one barracks. The tunnel connected hidden letters, false records, missing men, and a prisoner network still trying to protect itself after capture. Every board lifted from the floor made the camp feel less like a prison and more like a crime scene with walls. The major consequence arrived before dawn when the camp office compared the hidden roster to official records. 4 German prisoners listed as transferred were still inside the camp under false spellings. 2 American names matched missing reports, and 1 dog tag belonged to a man officially marked dead without recovery of remains. The sergeant ordered a full camp face count by photograph, not by prisoner leader reports. German assistants were removed from the process, and every prisoner was called forward individually. The old count collapsed within an hour, revealing wrong names, switched numbers, and men assigned to barracks they had never entered. An American captain took command of the investigation and ordered Barracks 12 emptied completely. Bunks were carried into the yard, mattresses opened, stove bricks lifted, and wall panels removed. Behind one wall brace, MPs found a small cloth bag filled with broken pencil stubs and scraps of American Safe Conduct leaflets. The leaflets had been cut into strips and used as bookmarks inside the hidden roster. One German prisoner explained that men who accepted those leaflets were marked as unreliable by hardline prisoners. If they spoke to Americans, their names moved from one column to the other. The consequence turned dangerous when 2 prisoners tried to attack Adler while he was being escorted from laundry. They rushed from the kitchen line with metal spoons sharpened to points, but guards knocked them down before they reached him. The spoons were added to the evidence table beside the roster. Adler then admitted that the tunnel had once stored records taken from a German holding camp nearby. When the Americans advanced, the papers were moved under Barracks 12 because prisoner leaders feared the evidence would show that American captives had been stripped of tags and moved without proper records. The American captain ordered a patrol to the nearby holding campsite. They found empty huts, burned papers, and a pit behind the infirmary wall filled with discarded tag chains, buttons, and torn uniform labels. A wooden sign still carried faint English initials carved into its back. The patrol returned with photographs and a metal chain matching the style of the dog tags from the box. One rescued German witness identified the holding camp as the place where several American wounded had been kept before transport farther east. The major consequence reached the prisoner population when the captain suspended all internal German authority. Barracks leaders lost their positions. German clerks were removed from records, and every transfer request from the last month was frozen pending review. Kruger tried to bargain for protection by naming the men who built the crawl tunnel. The captain accepted the names, but gave no promises. The men named were separated, searched, and found carrying thread codes that matched markings on the hidden roster. By afternoon, the first American family letter from the box was copied, sealed, and attached to a missing soldier file. The dog tag beside it was no longer an isolated object. It was part of a chain connecting a family name, a hidden barracks, a burned camp, and a deliberate effort to separate men from proof they had existed. The consequence was irreversible for the camp's old structure. No prisoner leader could touch records, no barracks could be searched casually, and no missing name could be dismissed as a clerical error after what came from beneath the floor. The major reversal began when Adler asked to see the second roster again. The captain expected another confession, but Adler pointed to a small red mark beside several names and said those were not targets. They were men someone inside the network had tried to protect. The thin prisoner from the fence confirmed it. Some prisoners had used the same hidden tunnel to save evidence, not destroy it. The dog tags had first been collected by hardline prisoner leaders, but later copied, moved, and hidden by men who wanted Americans to find them before the old guards removed everything. That changed the meaning of the crawl space. It was not only a vault for crimes. It was also a battlefield under the floor, where one group hid proof to control witnesses and another hid proof to preserve names. The captain ordered the red-marked names checked first. One belonged to a German medical orderly in the infirmary. He was brought forward and confessed that he had slipped American letters into the second tin because he could not deliver them openly without being beaten by prisoner leaders. The orderly led guards to the infirmary stove. Behind the ashtray was a waxed packet containing a hand-drawn map of the old holding camp, including a cellar beneath the infirmary hut that the patrol had missed. The map had been drawn from memory by an American prisoner before being moved. A second patrol returned to the burned campsite with tools. Beneath the infirmary foundation, they found the cellar door buried under ash and boards. Inside were 3 blankets, a rusted cup, and a wall covered with names scratched into wood, including 2 names from the dog tag box. The reversal struck the American troops hard because the hidden barracks evidence was no longer only about stolen effects. It proved that men inside the German prisoner population had risked punishment to preserve the trail of American captives. Back at camp, the captain separated the red-marked witnesses from the accused barracks leaders. The yard shifted visibly. Men who had looked like silent bystanders began stepping forward with buttons, notes, tag chains, and fragments of records they had hidden in shoes or bedding. Kruger tried to claim he had also protected names, but the red-marked witnesses refused to support him. One produced a note written by Kruger ordering the tunnel cleared if the Americans searched Barracks 12. The note was placed beside the chisel from his bunk. The reversal became public when the orderly carried out a folded American field dressing from his medical bag. Inside was one final dog tag chain with no tag attached, and a note saying the tag had been taken east with a living prisoner. The name matched a soldier still listed as missing. The captain ordered the investigation expanded from recovered names to possible survivors. The hidden space beneath the barracks had begun as a shocking discovery of dog tags, but now it pointed outward, toward routes, cellars, and men who might still be alive. By sunset, the accused leaders stood isolated while protected witnesses worked with American clerks. The same tunnel that had hidden fear now produced a reversal. Not every German prisoner had tried to erase the truth. Some had sewn it, buried it, copied it, and waited for the floor to break. The final irreversible event began when the patrol followed the eastward route from the field dressing note. They found a rail shed beyond a damaged bridge, still guarded by two retreating German soldiers who surrendered after warning shots hit the wall above them. Inside the shed were empty cots, a cold stove, and an American mess cup with initials scratched beneath the handle. The dog tag itself was not there, but a prisoner transport card lay under the cot, naming a medical convoy that had moved 3 days earlier. The convoy route led to a roadside aid station now occupied by American medics. When the captain arrived, a medic produced a tag from his pocket, saying it had been found around the neck of an unconscious American soldier brought in by civilians the night before. The name matched the missing soldier from the field dressing note. He was alive, feverish, and unable to speak, but his dog tag had returned with him after passing through the same hidden chain that began under Barracks 12. The captain ordered the soldier's identity confirmed by unit records, medical marks, and the letters found in the first 10. One letter contained a photograph of the soldier's brother. The unconscious man stirred when the name was read aloud, and the medic recorded the reaction as part of the file. The final link came when the red-marked medical orderly identified the transport card handwriting as Kruger's. Kruger had helped move the man east, then hidden part of the evidence beneath his own bunk when the route became dangerous to expose. The captain ordered Kruger and the accused barracks leaders placed under formal investigation, separate from the protected witnesses. Their names were entered into a new American file tied to the crawl tunnel, the holding camp, the rail shed, and the recovered survivor. Before noon, the entire floor of Barracks 12 was removed. Not patched, not locked, but stripped away plank by plank until the crawl space stood open under daylight. Every prisoner in the camp could see that the hidden room no longer existed. The evidence crates were loaded in sequence: dog tags, letters, rosters, ledgers, tunnel maps, transfer cards, and recovered chains. The protected witnesses watched as the boxes left first, guarded by MPs, so no prisoner leader could ever reclaim what had been buried. The final irreversible order was posted beside the barracks door. All prisoner-run records were abolished. All transfers required American face confirmation, and every barracks floor would be inspected by guards before any group movement. Kruger made one last attempt to look away when the surviving American soldier's name was added to the board of recovered identities. The captain ordered him to face the board while the clerk wrote it, because the name had survived the tunnel, the rail shed, and the false records. The final moment came when the recovered soldier's dog tag was photographed beside the broken plank that first exposed the box. The hidden space under the barracks had failed completely. It had been built to bury names, but by the end it had led the Americans to a living man. By evening, Barracks 12 stood open with its floor removed and sunlight falling into the crawl space that had held the first box. The dog tags and letters were gone under guard. The protected witnesses had new quarters, and Kruger's bunk was empty except for the broken chisel tagged as evidence. When the recovered American soldier's name was added to the camp board, every prisoner saw that the secret beneath the barracks had not buried the truth. It had finally led the guards to it. Most people know how World War II ended. Very few know what happened inside these prison camps. Subscribe for more untold WWII stories.